Oh man, so this sounds like we both had rough days today. You're getting ready to head out, and I've just been running
Yep.
like crazy all day long.
Yeah, it's getting ready to head to Washington tomorrow morning, back up there, and truck full of shit, trailer full of shit.
What's everything that you kind of had to do to get planned to take this trip?
I've got a pretty good system down. It's just it's been a little difficult in stuff like this because I'm transitioning still stuff and moving stuff around, and it's basically just you just got to pack everything because you can't have it flying around the trailer. So you got to make sure everything's secure. All your dishes, pots, pans. I have an office in here, so I box up my printer, box all my computer stuff up, and make sure it doesn't fly around. But it's basically detaching. You detach from all the septic power, get it ready. You got to get it on the truck. Make sure you
Make
don't
sure your
back.
shitter's not full.
Yeah, the Stinky Slinky. That goddamn. Someone's got to create a better solution for that thing. The Stinky Slinky. I've talked about this in a few blogs. People were asking questions. The Stinky Slinky for a travel trailer or RV is the accordion tube that goes from your clean out of your sewage for your trailer RV.
Is it like what in Christmas Vacation where Cousin Eddie's standing next to the thing that he's holding, that he's shooting it down the sewer line when he says shitter's full? Is it that thing?
What it looked like? I don't remember.
It looked exactly like what you're saying. It looked like an accordion thing. It was about 6 inches in diameter.
That's it.
He's got a hold of it, and he's like,
yeah, that's
full.
It. Yeah, and so that drains out. So you got to detach that thing every time. And there's actually a storage in your bumper of RVs. So you put it in there so it doesn't stink and stuff. But you put it in there, then your bumper stinks. If you don't cap both ends or it starts to leak,
well, it probably prevents people from tailgating.
Well, yeah, but that's thinking. Then the back of your trailer RV smells like shit. So I've always used a plastic tub, and I circle it. So I just tie the two loose ends together and dump it in there. But I stepped on the dang thing today, reattaching because I spun the trailer around, hooked it up to my truck, and so I can just drive right out.
Mm-hmm.
And stepped on it, crushed the midsection. So I got to go buy another one. And then I forgot. I forgot that I had the one valve. I had the gray water valve open, which it's still not a good idea. And I had the cap on it. So when I went to rehook, I took the cap off and the water came out, and there's still crap water in there because I cleaned everything out today too. So I dumped everything. Oh, just right on my hand. I mean, just flooded my hands and just stunk, got all over my feet and my flip-flops. So I had to go wash my feet and flip-flops off. And those things are awful. They're just awful. I don't know why someone hasn't created something easier. Well, there are a couple. I actually had it and I sold it. It works with a garden hose. It's like a small, it's the same concept though. It basically, the bigger travel trailers, RVs have these things called Visser Aters. So what it does is you turn it on and it chews up all the solids. So if there's toilet paper and all that, this was a water version of that through it. I don't know. There's no good solution. Poop is poop. And if you're handling it, it's going to get on you and it's going to stink. There's no two ways about it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it does. It happens. If it's, it comes out of your body and ends up on your hands. Hey, but no, it's been a lot of getting ready though, because I have to pack stuff, bikes, because I bring everything with me. If I was traveling lighter and not living, it wouldn't be nearly as difficult. And I did buy that saw today, so I'm pretty stoked on my 12-inch.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
Sliding miter saw, and I'm like, oh. Finally, because the one I bought on Craigslist, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, because my other one burned out. And I was like, I'm not buying a new one. I was pissed off. And so I got it from some contractor, unemployed contractor, and it didn't have the dust bag on it. Mm-hmm. It's a good saw. I mean, it's a good one. I bought for like $50. Problem is I haven't been able to find a bag for it because it's got a really big outlet. So I keep buying the wrong one, and I bought like 3 of them, and it's always the wrong size, and I finally gave up. Me and my contract, the guy who helped my helper, every time you cut any wood, literally blows right back, blows right in your face. So you have to kind of do this and hit it, and then it blows past you. So now it's like I won't be getting sawdust blown directly in my face. And
so you had a good Tim Allen feeling today. You got some manpower.
Buying tools is just, I just love it. I've always worked with my hands, and I've always had somewhat of a set of tools. And just when you get something cool like that, it's so worth it, because those things are expensive. You could spend $600-700 on the really high end ones. Easy. And then you get the stand, it's over $1,000, but it was $249. It's a Ruby, whatever, however you say it.
Yeah.
Ruby.
I don't know.
Something like that. And so that one, I've used their tools before. They're not the best, but for what you get, the price, they're actually pretty good.
Yeah, I went to Lowe's today, and I mean, you go to places like that, and it's almost so hard to even make a decision. We're getting a fan because we got this cool air down in the basement. We wanted to get this fan that would blow air up to the second story, or the middle level. And my sister has one. So I went there to see it, and it needs to tilt. So we went down there and looked at these industrial strength ones. Well, they had one that might work, but it was like $300. So then now I'm standing in front of 40 different fans trying to figure out which one would best work the way I wanted it to work. And I swear it was just Emily texted me, and she's like, I need to leave at 5:00. When are you coming home? And I was like, I'll be here all day making this decision. So I just had to say, screw it. Just amazing how much stuff, just how much of one item is out there.
Well, and you're like me, I shop. I want to make sure I buy the right tool, because I don't like rebuying stuff either. Yeah. So I want a good deal, but I want a good tool. I want something that's going to last. I don't want to just buy a piece of crap. Harbor Freight's great for disposable tools. If you want something you just want to use a couple times and either sell or get rid of, perfect. But I usually, most of my tools I use forever. I mean, I keep them. I have tools that literally my grandfather had that I have. So you always, and the fans, I remember we had a heat wave in Southern California. Gosh, it must have been 2008. Got really, really hot. And I did the same thing. I went out looking for fans. The house I had didn't have air conditioning. Yeah, $500,000 house, and it doesn't have air conditioning. That's Southern California. And so I went and I found them, and they were $35, I think. And they're called Aloha fans. They blow like a mother. Actually, I gave them to my mom. They finally burned out. But those things, the only downside is they're super, super loud. Yeah,
that's the thing, because my sister's in that loud, and I just need to call her and ask her exactly what they bought and order it online. But it's something that if it's downstairs, I didn't want it creating this constant sound, and unless you plug it in there, you don't know how it's going to sound anyway.
No, and I didn't know either, but on high, don't get me wrong, it blew a lot of it, and they were about, they're about this big. They're the old steel fans, the steel cage fans that you can break open. Yeah. The thing was, in the room, literally someone could have came in there and beat me with a baseball bat, and I wouldn't have heard one thing, because you can't, it's just so loud. And it was hard to get used to at first. Actually, one of my neighbors even complained, because I had a window open. He goes, "God, dude, your fan is loud." I'm like, all right. Maybe I'll get a different one. And for
God's sakes, close your blinds sometimes.
Yeah, close your blinds, walking around naked all the time. I worry about that. I do walk around naked and don't tend to care.
Yeah, but you live in a trailer now, so it doesn't really matter. Your dog is the only one that's going to see anything.
Well, you'd be surprised. These trailers, you can see in if you got your windows open, and you just forget because it's a small space.
Yeah, I bet you when you roll those things up into a little community of trailers, there's some interesting stuff that goes on outside those walls.
Dude, trailer parks are definitely interesting, and they're different. People think of the trailer park, the mobile home park. That's when they think, but don't get me wrong, these RV places usually have some of them have mobile homes in there, the older ones, and RV slots. Most now RV slot places are all RVs. That's what it is. But there's some characters, man. And
I remember Go ahead.
Well, the one I'm staying at, the one I stayed at last time, I just didn't like one of the neighbors. I couldn't stand him. The guy's just a loser and just, yeah, didn't want anything to do with that. And so I moved to this other one, but it's raw. It's rough, man. You know, what do you expect when you're spending $300 a month? But they're the only ones around. I mean, that are close enough. Otherwise, I'm in a different area, and it's too hard to go back and forth. And be honest with you, most people they're goofy, but they don't mess with you. You know, they're not going to do anything. They're just odd.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I kind of envision, like, you know, you roll out and it's like the hippies, you know, they're just all out front dancing around playing bongos. And then you might have these hardcore rednecks on the other side that are down there on monstrous fishing trips or something like that down by the lake. It seems like it's just going to have a mix of people that you would not see in normal society mingling together.
Surprisingly, I haven't ran into very many hippies. It's a lot of in San Diego, Southern California, it's people saving money because it's a lot cheaper to live in an RV park than to buy a house and deal with all the utilities. And so the ones that I've stayed in Southern California are actually really nice, and they kind of screen people. You can't bring in an old trailer. It has to be like, I think it's 2007 or newer kind of thing. And if not, they have to inspect it. So it depends where you're going. The one I'm going to right now, there's no inspections, period. It's just, it's mostly, I'll be honest, it's white trash. I mean,
but what's the name of the lake that you're staying in Washington?
Sasheen.
Okay.
Sasheen. Okay. And see, I don't mind white. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean white trash in a derogatory sense. I grew up white trash. I have long generations of white trash in my family. It's just the way it goes. It's just, you know, I shouldn't even use that. Yeah, they are what they are. Like I said, no one's ever really given me a hard time. It's just certain people, if you're that close, you're like, you know, this is the first time I've actually pulled up and I didn't leave. I just decided not to go back because I didn't like certain people in there, and it was all one family. Mm-hmm. And I was just all, nah, I'm not going to deal with, you know, once you pass a certain phase of stupidity, and it wasn't just being an idiot, stupid. It was doing things that they just were not right. It was one of those, if I was the owner, the guy would have been booted right on the spot. I would have said, get your truck, pull your truck, and leave. Honestly, go. It's time for you to leave. And nothing happened, so I kind of went, I ain't going to stick around for that. I'll take my chances on the other side of the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it also a place where people come in for the weekend, or is this more of a permanent thing? Do they have...
The one where I was at is a seasonal. Most people there's people who've had trailers there for 20 plus years. So they leave them. Everyone leaves and they're set there. There's trailers that literally cannot move. Mm-hmm. They've been there so long, and it's right on the water. So it's got the best beach. It bummed me out because I really, really like the place. I like staying there. So most people leave. The other one is a little more transient. People will go in and out, but people live there. And that's the thing about trailer park or RV parks people understand is a lot of people will actually live there, and they bring their travel trailers and live. So they could be there 10, 15 years.
Yeah, that's weird because I wouldn't have thought that. It's just
I didn't know either.
Just in my life, that's not something that I deal with, that people actually would choose to, you know, I'm stupid. I mean, not to think that, because obviously that would be a simple way to live, but it's just not something that I think about. And, you know, the only time I ever stayed at something like that is I think years ago, we took a travel trailer. It was just me and a couple other dudes to go spend a weekend out in the woods or whatever. And we took that there and pretty much I felt sorry for the people around us as I got older, because I'm sure that we created havoc for them, because all we did was go out there and get shit-faced and dare each other to see if you could run naked across the park or something crazy like that, you know?
There's definitely a lot of that going on. There's a lot of getting shit-faced and run around. I see this one, and especially where I was at before 4th of July, it was just mayhem. I mean, absolute friggin' mayhem. Everyone who stays there, because it's such a nice place that everyone, and it's cheap. And so people would show up and bring all their families, relatives. So there's like 100 people in this small little It's a small, like I think there's 13 space, maybe 20 spaces total. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And this chick was just hammered. And she goes running after a kid up this slope and just kicks over, gets trips, face plants, beer in hand, kicks up, lands on her face, literally skids on her face, holding her beer, trying to keep her beer up high. And it was just comedy. And she gets up, looks around. I go, yeah, I saw that. You know, I'm all, come on, that was epic. And
like,
just
why couldn't you videotape that, man? That would have been a viral video right there. One of those crazy vines. Man, that's I don't know. I can't imagine. You know, that's something that I feel like I could do for a good long weekend. But I would want to be transient. If I had something like that, I'd want to move around. Because
that's what I like to do. I do move around, and that's why that park, the other one, I'd been at a couple years. So it's like, let me flip. I've stayed at the one I'm staying at. I stayed at the end of the year 2 years ago for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. And
it was fine. I mean, it's fun because if you get sick of something, you literally just pull up and leave. Yeah. You know, if someone really pisses you off or or something happens, you got to go. It's a pretty interesting. I wish, honestly, that I would have done this a lot earlier in life, because first of all, it would have saved me a lot of money. Being a single guy, I didn't need houses. I mean, I made money on some houses. I lost my ass on the last one, but you know, it was one of those deals to where if you're single or it's just you and a wife or something, this is such an easy way to live, and you're not tied down. You can work anywhere. You know, if your job, you get laid off. To me now at this stage of my life, I look at a house as a trap almost. Mm-hmm. You know, the place I'm building, people go, yeah, you're building a place. Yeah, but I'm going to own it cash. I mean, when I'm done, I won't owe anything on it. So, and I can, you know, I don't rely upon having to live there and commute to work every day. So I just think, I think it's a good way to go. And younger people are doing more and more of this. I'm finding there's younger people are just living in travel trailers, traveling around, you know, working remotely and doing that because you can work remotely now. And it's more of a money saving thing and convenience. To me, trailers are so nice now. There's no difference between a trailer and a house. Mm-hmm. Really. There really isn't. They're just smaller and a lot less. So it's there's a lot of upside to it. The downside is, you know, it's small. You got to get used to, you got to downgrade. You can't carry a bunch of crap with you everywhere. You know, you can't have 3 sets of golf clubs and a garage full of stuff. It really makes you hunker down and do it. And it's kind of a midlife thing. We're going to get into the midlife crisis. We got deviate a little bit. But we were going to talk about you and going through that. For me, it's a little bit different. And I've been asked this. People go, hey, you're getting close to that midlife crisis or anything. I go, I've been single. I've done all the things I've ever wanted to do. Not to say being married, you can't. But I go, I've always just done whatever I want. There's no midlife crisis. I've never experienced it. It's not going to happen. I've owned sports cars. I owned them when I was young. I've had motorcycles. You know, I've had all the stuff that midlife crisis guys do. I've done it. I've already been there, done all that stuff. So for me, it's more of the midlife thing for me is more of goals. Mm-hmm. The remaining goals that I want to accomplish more than anything and feel like time's starting to tick. I'm like, okay, I got to get this accomplished. I got to get this done. Because, you know, I'm not living forever. When you're 20, you know, us back in the day in boot camp, we thought, you know, you're 20, 23. You got a ton of life left. You know, midlife crisis is 20 plus years away.
Yeah.
So for you, what do you think?
Well, you know, last night, Emily and I went out to dinner for our anniversary. It was our 9th anniversary. And, you know, we had this really nice. We went to Ruth's Chris. I don't know if you've been to a Ruth's Chris steakhouse.
Yeah.
But, you know, we spent close to $200, but damn, man, it was awesome. You know, worth it for a midlife crisis. Worth it for a anniversary dinner. But she kind of sat down, and one of the things we talked about, you know, she's starting this new diet that deals with fasting and stuff like that. So she wanted to talk about that. So in order to talk about that, she asked me about the podcast so she wouldn't just talk about herself. And she asked, what basically is the podcast about? And I said, one of the things is, and I kind of mentioned midlife crisis. And I said, I don't think it's a midlife crisis. I think what it is, and I think when people talk about midlife crisis, it's people that, you get out of college or you get out of high school and you start a job and you think, I want to do this, 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 and this. So just like you said, I've got accomplishments that I want to do, but they're not like set. I've got to do them now. So not necessarily put them off or whatever, but most people get themselves at that point stuck in some kind of job. Yeah. You get stuck in a factory like me. You get stuck working in insurance. I was lucky when I was working in journalism because I could move around and everything, but it just didn't pay anything. So, you get somebody that gets out at 22 years old and they start working at a factory and end up doing this job. And we were talking about how much, you asked me the other day about how much money I make. And, when I told you, you're like, okay, that's more than I thought. Well, it's good money. So you get stuck into the cycle where you have a job that you might not like. You have these dreams and aspirations, but now you've got yourself financially stuck to this job. To where, it's like, if I want to do this, I can't do it because I have a job. Yeah. So you get in that kind of realm of thinking. Plus you have benefits and all this stuff, and it gets comfortable. So you get comfortable and you end up being comfortable for the next 20, 25 years. Well, at some point, I think in your life, once you get a certain amount of wisdom and you get a certain amount of gumption, I guess, that you maybe didn't have, you think, all right, I had all these dreams and aspirations and I didn't act on it. I'm not necessarily happy. I'm making good money. So the midlife crisis, I think, is looking at and saying, man, why didn't I do what I wanted to do? And it's how you get through that anxiety of that at that certain age, because it's going to hit. I think you around your mid 40s, as you said, you're looking towards the end, even though it might be another 40 years off, you do think, am I doing what I want to do? Am I happy? So it's a questioning thing. So, people with money might go buy a sports car because they may want a sports car, and I think that's kind of what you get at. You've got kids, maybe they've gotten out of the house. I'm unfortunate because I'm old, unfortunate in the way that I'm older and having kids, and they're not going to be out of the house until I get really old. But it's probably a good thing that I didn't have kids when I was younger, because I think I'm more responsible to have kids now than I would, and I am a much better dad than I would have been at 22, 23.
Oh, but God, I couldn't imagine us having kids that young. I couldn't even imagine.
I see it. I see it with people all the time, and I'm just like, man, I can't believe that you're a dad, and they're so much younger, 22, 23 years old, and they've got kids, and I couldn't imagine. It just freaks me out to think about that.
And I think you're saying something, a good example too, is that you look back, and I agree with you. I would have been a wreck. I would have been divorced if I would have gotten married in my 20s. So much changes between 20 to 35 even, because you're finding yourself. And I've always wondered that too. I go, gosh, why is it that people have kids right away? They get married, or it used to be married late teens, early 20s, have kids, and you're still just growing. I mean, you're just figuring out you haven't even figured out how to be an adult. You're making that transition from basically, teenager, no responsibilities, to having a little, and then all of a sudden you're an adult. It's like, okay, shit, now what? and I know that for me in my 20s, that having kids to me is mind boggling. And I think that's why a lot of parents end up being bad parents, even though today there's a whole list of other things. It's just because you're inexperienced. Physically, we're at our prime. I think, what is it? Girls are at their prime at 16 or something. God, don't.
No, I don't. I'm not going to quote that stuff because I'll be wrong.
But no, I could be told. But I remember during research of all the health stuff, I could have sworn it's like 16 and men are like 25, something like that. It was off. The two are pretty off. But you think of that, it's definitely pretty early in life. It's not 35.
Yeah.
It's early in life. And you think of that, you go, okay, when you're most physically attuned or in tune to have kids, you're probably emotionally at the worst place, one of the worst places, especially in today's society, I would say.
Well, it's today's society. I think today's society, because obviously back in the day, people were having kids at 15, 16 years old. I mean, that was just, you
Oh,
needed farm hands and you pop them out, and I mean, that's just not the way it's done these days. So I think in today's society, more people do wait till they're later to have kids.
Oh, much so.
So, that's why, and that's why it kind of freaks me out when I see people 18, 19 years old with kids, because it's kind of, I was like, man, if I equate myself at that time, I mean, I was a hard drinking some bitch in my late teens, and
Oh, yeah.
if I couldn't have done it. I mean, I would not have been a good dad.
Oh, trust me, I'm sure you have friends that did.
Yeah.
Didn't have.
But they got through it.
Oh,
but
well,
a lot of them got divorced early. I know that. I mean, it was a lot of them were a mess. So.
Well, and the kids didn't turn out so great either. Some, but it depends. It just depends. Yeah, but as you get older and you look back at that, though, do you go, okay, I agree. I think I'm much better older as being a father. I probably, be honest with you, in my 20s, if I would have got a girl pregnant, had to get married, and I probably would have ran to Canada. To be honest, I mean, I don't think I could have handled the responsibility, and I know how I am. I'm a nomad and kind of a roamer in general. I don't sit, me, I've never sat tight. I always move, and part of it was the government moving all the time, and kind of got used to that kind of lifestyle. And just, I like to change pace and do different things. So that kind of had something to do with it. But now how would that be? So how is it? Because you have new kids. I mean, they got
less than 2.
Yeah, they got new kid smell still. And for a guy approaching 50, how does that change? Would you say it changes that midlife crisis?
I think it does, because I'm kind of full in it. I mean, like we were talking, my midlife crisis, and I don't think there is one. I think it's just my desire to do what I want to do, to find some freedom and balance that. So that's what the podcast is about, and anything else that we're working on the side that we've got going on. Because now it's like I found happiness in this. I have happiness with my kids. They make me happier than you could imagine. They also make me madder than you can imagine. But, I have happiness in that. I have happiness in my marriage. I love my wife. So, and that's good. So, we're married 9 years. And like I said, we're married 9 years because she didn't meet me when I was 22 years old. I don't think she would have liked that guy, so it took me that age to get there. So, when I think about midlife crisis, it's just work. It's just refocusing yourself on your job, and because you spend the majority of your time. I don't spend the majority of the time with my family. I spend the majority of my time at work.
That's all Americans.
Yeah. So that's all Americans. So my thing is, why not do something that you love, and make that work? So, and I think a lot of people, like I was saying, they spend 20 years in a factory or 20 years in an office in a cubicle. Man, that's got to, it's going to hit you at some point that, man, why am I doing this? What can I do to get out? So I think that's the midlife crisis. It's that realization that, man, I'm getting older, and am I going to do this for the next 20 more years, or am I going to get out and do something else?
Well, and you hit on some really good points. And I think the millennials have kind of figured this stuff out, are trying to, because they've kind of said that. They go, this is bullshit, this whole work environment. And I used to look at people who used to say that, and I'd go, they're just lazy. Mm-hmm. But I'm realizing now that they're kind of onto something, because what they're thinking is, I don't need to fit in to, I don't need to conform to this type of work environment. And I'll be honest, we were kind of the last generation of where there was still, you could go in and there was corporate jobs you could get, retire. Those are gone though. Even my friends now, they thought they start off in these jobs, they thought they'd have all their life, and they're getting laid off. There's downsizing, all kinds of crap. And I think the millennials have looked at that and kind of gone through it, the older millennials, and gone, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. And I totally agree. A human is not meant, we're adventurous. We have imagination. We like to think, we like to push our most. That's a whole debate too today. but humans are curious. We're curious animals. And by putting us in a cubicle or in an office and saying, okay, honestly, today, you're going to work at least bare minimum, unless you save and come up with a brilliant idea. And honestly, you better be an entrepreneur. 50 years, yep. Truly, you're going to work 50 years more than likely. Around.
My first job was 15 when I started. I started working at a fast food restaurant when I was 15, and if you work till 65, that's 50 years. But I'm going to probably work longer than that.
Well, a lot of people are. And I think that's what's changing too, is now people are going to have to work into their 70s, because what is it? 60% of people today have less than $1,000 in the bank, or was it 70?
It's crazy. 60? Yeah, it was a crazy number that blew me away.
And they've looked at even older people, and it's just as alarming. It's like people over 50 have like $5,000 or something stupid. And you look at that, there's no retirement plans really anymore. The traditional retirement, it's going to be a 401k, and a 401k is tricky. If you started putting into it, 50 years ago, and then you're retiring, will it work? Yeah. If you're going to try and do that after 20, no way in hell is that going to work. I don't care if you max that thing out. You're not going to get there. Then you got health insurance. Health insurance is stupid expensive now. So everything's shifted. And I think people are learning. I think as we're all looking at that and going, grinding for 50 years, because I got my first job at 13. And I think of that. I remembered when I hit 43, I went, man, I've been working for 30 years. And I was like, man, I'm tired. And I was, working on my business and doing some other stuff. But you're totally right. It's a grind. And to think that doing something that you're not necessarily passionate about for 50 years, that's torturing the rat. I mean,
it's a prison sentence.
It really, really is. And I'm not saying hard work is a bad thing by any stretch. Even if you were, say, we went back 50,000 years where we're still roaming around in small tribes, small groups, and living off the land. Well, it's still brutal. You're still going to work, and you're going to work hard, but you're working for life. A little different, They, played a lot of games, astronomy. I mean, think of what they knew about just the universe, and they knew mathematics. We're learning that we're kind of stupid. Actually, ancient civilization was far more advanced than we ever thought. There was something I saw. I'm reading. I'm an avid reader. I'm always reading stuff. Too bad I can't retain most of it. Getting too old. But that they have found, carved stones that are hundreds of tons, and the actual site where they got the stone from is like 50 miles away. And you're like, how in the world did they do that? And you hear, well, it was slave labor, this and that. And you're like, nah, you got to feed all those people. How you feed and house 25,000 people working all day long, like Egypt. It's nuts. It's just to think of that tangent. But again, they were working and they were grinding. I guarantee those people had pretty hard lives too, as slave labor. It truly was. But I kind of look at that society today. You're right. And we were told when we were young. I remember a lot of people saying, older people going, do what you love. And you're all, dang, and you end up doing things for money and comfort. And the more you make, the more you spend. And you never get ahead. And that's, I think with age, me and you are both have learned that, God, I wish I was smarter when I was younger. But what were we not taught? What were we not taught that we needed to be taught? How to manage money, how to grow money, talk about investing in entrepreneurship and investments, having tangible investments, not just the stock market, investing in a property, investing in maybe someone else's business, investing in your own business. We're not taught any of this. And the reason I believe we're not taught any of that is to keep us on the hamster wheel.
Yeah. I mean, you need those workers. You need people that will go to work every day and walk in a circle. Like at my place, you walk in a circle all day long doing the same thing every 53 seconds. You
Oh,
know, I mean,
yeah.
and you know, there are people, and God love them, that want to go to work, want to do that job, and want to go home and see their family because there's no stress. You know, it's like I have no stress. I go there and do that. I'm done, and then I go back and see my family. And I mean, there are people like that, and God, like I said, God love them, because you know that's hard to do.
Yeah, and some people, like you said, are totally happy with that, and there's nothing wrong with it. I know how you are. I mean, we know
Mhm.
each other a long time, and you know how I am. You stick me in a cubicle, and I'll slowly start to go bonkers at some point. I'm gonna lose my mind. And you know that working for the government, I was lucky in a sense that that job was pretty dynamic. I moved a lot. The jobs were different. You know, each because people would ask me, I used to get this asked, what do you do every day? Like friends who didn't understand, they go, "What's your
Mhm.
average day like?" I go, "I can't tell you. Every day is so different." Depending on my caseload, depending on what's going on, if you know we're working on other people's cases, do we need to travel? So that was good. If it wasn't all the BS and bureaucracy involved, being a federal agent and doing a criminal investigation is a blast. The problem is it's only about 25% of your job. The other 75% is dealing with idiots and bullcrap, unfortunately, and paperwork. The paperwork I did was ungodly. I have never done more paperwork than I did as a federal agent. Useless, stupid paperwork. You know, but I agree. I think if you could figure that out early, and I'm sure your kids are going to have a totally different perspective than we did, because you're
Oh,
going to tell.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to push them in the direction they want to go. You know, make sure they do something that's. But I mean, then again, you know, I'm sure my dad never thought that I'd be doing the same thing he did. You know,
Yeah.
I went to college, and he had to thought that I wasn't going to end up following in his footsteps, and here I am doing it. But so I mean, also you can tell them whatever you want, but they're going to do what they're going to do. You know, but I do want them. You know, I am going to try to instill in them. You know, just do something that's going to make you happy. You know, that's
And there has to be a. It's hard to say too, because I agree. When we were told that when we were younger, I was, but we were also coming from a generation. You know, my mom and my grandparents were. It was that job. You got the gold watch at the end. You
mm-hmm.
got your retirement. It was a good retirement. My grandfather's
Yeah.
retirement was ridiculous. I mean, he was middle class, but his retirement was awesome. I mean, it was structured. It was good. Yeah, he was an LA firefighter.
Yeah. My dad's retirement for Ford was great.
Yeah, and those are gone.
Yeah.
That stuff's gone.
You know, and one of in like right now, just look at the coal industry here in Eastern Kentucky. Years ago, the government made this promise to them. They said, we are going to make sure no matter what happens to the businesses that own the coal companies, we're going to take care of your insurance. We're going to make sure your retirement is solid. Well, guess what? They're getting ready to drop it. You know, the government today,
Yep.
it's not there. So now these coal miners who are 65, 66 years old are getting ready to lose their insurance because the government is now playing patty cake with their promise.
Yep.
So I mean, in same thing with manufacturing. Manufacturing, you know, you had this level of retirement that you were promised that you're going to get. Well, that's going away. You know, they're slowly dwindling down. It's like once, you know, we were going to pay 100% of your insurance. Well, now, you know, we're having a little bit of trouble time, so we're going to take that down to 80%. Well, you know, we're going to take that down. So it's happening. And if you don't have your stuff squared away, you're gonna be in trouble. You know, I had this guy the other day. It's pretty interesting. Um, me and my wife were big Dave Ramsey fans, and we got debt free via Dave Ramsey. I mean, we did it. We followed his program, and within a couple of years, got debt free, except for our mortgage, and that was awesome. And I tried to instill that on some of the younger employees at work. You know, that talk about money. They know that I did it, and someone will ask me questions about it. Well, I bought this one girl a book, one of the Dave Ramsey books, and I said, you know, if you're interested in this, read this book and do what it says. You know, we were sitting at the break table, and I just kind of explained to her what the program was and everything. Well, I moved jobs, and I just now came back to that group. Like, I think it was 3 years later, I'm back in that group. Well, this young guy, super young guy, married, came up to me and he goes, you remember that time you gave Brittany that book and talked to her about Dave Ramsey? I said, yeah. He said, well, I went home and I started researching him online, and me and my wife got debt free and we're doing great. He said, you don't know this, but you changed my life, and he was young, he got it. So why can't we teach these kids? And I know I'm going to teach my girls and son finances. My wife was a banker. We're going to teach them finance. They're going to understand what the value of money is when they get older. So that's going to, they're going to benefit greatly that I didn't have. Obviously you didn't have either.
Yeah. And it was one of those things, if you don't have money, it's kind of, you grow up poor, it's kind of hard to manage money. I mean, I didn't have anything, but I did well with money because I always had to work. I had to manage my own finances. I couldn't get out ahead of myself. So yeah, it's the things that and Dave Ramsey's been around forever. I used to listen to Dave Ramsey. Gosh, I want to say I started listening to him maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah. He's been around for a long time.
And because he was on AM radio, if I remember right. And this was a different than what he's doing now. And you're right. It's straightforward and basic. But I actually did that with a girlfriend. She was way in debt. I mean, she had credit cards, car payments, student loans. She was and she would cry. She would talk to me and I'd go, because she had like 3 jobs. And I go, why do you have 3 jobs? And she goes, because I have to make all my payments. And she was making the bare minimum on everything. So she wasn't getting ahead. She was paying primarily interest. And I sat her down. I did the Dave Ramsey. I said, first, start with the low credit card. Is it going to make a big difference in your debt? No, but it'll give you that attitude of, okay, I knocked one out. It's more the positive thinking. And then move on to the next thing that you can figure out. Try and consolidate. She's totally out of debt now, and she didn't even want to face it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Once you get to a certain point, you don't want to face it. You just want to let it pile up. I mean, you don't want it to pile up anymore, but it just piles up, and it gets to the point where you just get buried by it. And I think sometimes when you get to that situation, it's just you get too much to overcome. You give up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and think about it now with this many people with no savings, no retirement. We're going to have a meltdown of epic proportions at some period. You know what I mean? Because most people have zero savings. They have nothing. And I'm thinking at some point that, it's got to come home at some point. All this debt everyone's trying to manage and not having enough money to retire, either you're going to have to work till you're dead, but a problem too is automation's taking. You know this very well. You work with robots. It's taking over. Automation is kicking in. So humans are becoming less and less desired for work because it's cheaper to automate now because we're so expensive. And not only that, but the population is booming. Our population worldwide is growing at a ridiculous pace. I want to say, what do we have? Like 7.5 billion people, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Something like that. Something ridiculous. But over the last 10 years, it's drastically grown. I mean, it's starting to boom. And you start to look at all this, you go, okay, how are we going to do this? Not to get in doom and gloom, but if you're at that midlife crisis too, the midlife thing, what are you going to do? And what you better do is you better get your act together and start saving.
Down 10 minutes. All right. Well, you can see what I've got going on right now. I've got 2 kids that just got back from Tampa, Florida. So I say we cut this off now, make this a good short podcast, and move on. Can you say hi, girls? You can say hi.
Hi.
You got to ask, did they buy you a gift?
Did you guys buy me anything when you were down in Tampa?
But
did you
we
bring me?
get sand.
What did you get? You got me sand. I can get sand in the backyard.
Really? No, you can't.
Well, I can get it. I bet you I can get it in Cash's backyard, can't I? They have a sandbox.
They do? Who do?
I don't know.
What were they doing in Tampa? Were they at a conference on how to manage money and start their own business?
Exactly. I've got them starting young. So they got to go down to the beach and they got to go to Busch Gardens and ride roller coasters.
Yep.
Oh, that's fun.
Roller coasters are the best part.
What was your favorite part, Harper?
Going to see flamingos there.
Well, you guys say it a little bit louder. Say it in here.
So much flamingos.
Flamingos?
Yeah.
No, not in Florida.
Yeah. Yep. There's so many. They're like all gathered up in a pile.
All gathered up in a pile.
Well, see, and you need to start them young so they could take care of you and Emily and me, right?
Well, that's the whole thing, yeah. Because once I get up, it's not going to be long when I get up there. So I need to have them trained to be able to wipe certain areas.
Or either that or create something that helps wipe.
Exactly.
And yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. We just, our guest tonight, we're going to push to another night. So we just needed to find something to talk about. So we just hopefully threw one together. And I know some people have said they like it better when we just shoot the breeze, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we'll get back on the train next week.
Yep. And I'll be on the road for the next couple days, but I'll be back at it this week. So we'll have another episode. I won't skip one. I may be tired.
And I think what we're going to talk about next time is when you get up there, what you faced and how you got to get ready to get your off the grid project going again. We'll go back and revisit the off the grid project.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'll be living it again for the next 6-7 months. So,
all right. Well, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.